So, you like my setup here? At any time I can just beep beep. I debated whether to make this video because it's a pretty heavy subject. In the end, I decided to put it on my travel channel because it is travel related. But content warning for this whole thing, okay? This has to do with mental health. Well, let's be frank. This has to do with an incident I witnessed where a person took their own life publicly. If you're not aware, I work contract work. So half the year I'm working, and I'm working pretty full on. I'm pretty busy. And then the other half of the year, I'm a little sick at the moment, by the way. So that's why I'm sort of stuffed up. The other half of the year, I can do whatever I want. And cost of living in Australia is so expensive. I thought, well, Asia's basically Australia's backyard. I've been traveling around Asia. So I'm currently in Manila, in the Philippines. I'm not going to say exactly where I am, but I am going to narrow it down quite a bit because this is relevant to the incident. You can probably Google this if you look up Gramercy incident. This is the incident that I'm referring to, Gramercy. A few days ago, I was walking back to my apartment and there was a section of road that was cordoned off with emergency vehicles. And I just assumed it was a car crash. So I sort of skirted around to the side because it was the route I would normally take to get back to my apartment. And they had this inflatable tent looking thing on the road, and I assumed that it was a car crash or something, and this was like some way of just blocking the victims from onlookers. So I thought nothing of it, and I thought that whatever had happened had already happened, basically. So I'm walking through and I walk past the area, and then I see this crowd of people congregated at the ground level, and they're all looking up at this high-rise apartment. And then it starts to dawn on me what's happening. So I make it all the way through the cordoned off area to the crowd, and I look up and there's this little speck, this little person up in this apartment building about to jump, basically. And the emergency personnel, they get the cushion inflated, ready to go, and then I hear this shriek, this scream in the crowd, and I look up and the person has jumped and they're falling down. And I immediately felt I don't know if I have words for it. I think it was just an immediate, the gut instinct was that at that moment in time, I did not want to be a part of the crowd, sort of in some way. Like I didn't want to be involved in that. And I know that's a really simplistic way of describing it, but when something is happening, like when a disaster is unfolding in a 10-second time span, you can only think of a simplistic thing. So that was my instinctual response. I'm reporting that as accurately as I can. I did not want to be in the crowd onlooking that incident, basically. So I turned around and I walked back to my apartment, but then at the last minute, for some reason, I sort of looked back and I saw the person falling, and I saw them falling like 2 or 3 meters above the ground. And then I turned away and I heard this sickening impact where I just knew it was over. That felt very strange because you're feeling a lot of things, but at the same time you can't put your finger on it. Even now I can't describe the exact thoughts that were going through my head. And then at the same time it almost feels like not real, like doesn't feel like a real thing, like a real incident. Like maybe some part of me thought that if I looked away, it wouldn't happen. And then I looked back because I realized that yes, it was happening, regardless of whether I was in the crowd or not. Apparently, this is not an uncommon occurrence overseas around, well, in big cities, for sure, in big cities, but also around Southeast Asia. I think a lot of people come over here and they remove themselves from their support networks. So, their friends and family, and they try to make their own lives here, but it's very difficult to make long-term connections overseas where people are transient by nature. And let's be honest, a lot of them fall for girls, and they take their retirement savings and they say, I'm going to go retire overseas, and they put so much money and investment and time into something, and then it turns out not to be what they think it is. And then at the end of all that, they've cut off their support networks. Maybe they've sold their house, maybe they've gone through a divorce or something, and they're totally alone. And I can see that. I've never been to Pattaya in Thailand, but there's something I've heard of over there called the Pattaya Flying Club, and it's basically what I described. People just end it, jumping off buildings. Now, in this case, after the fact, I did look up some of the details, and from the information that I can find, this person was abusing their girlfriend, was hitting their girlfriend, and then they did it. Something like that. I don't have the exact timeline, but they were hitting their girlfriend, abusing their girlfriend, and security were alerted, and then they got on the balcony and this happened. I don't know the exact details, but I think for people who travel long term, especially solo travelers, I don't know what the prescription for this is, what the fix is. I don't think there is a fix. I think maybe what we should do is be a little easy on ourselves and not be attached to a particular thing, and not feel like things have to go one way or the other. And also, people have this notion when you go to other countries that it's like a non-stop party, especially around Southeast Asia. People think it's like party all the time, like the beach. Okay, well, first of all, I'd recommend watching the beach all the way through before concluding that's a good thing. And secondly, just because the opportunity is there doesn't mean you need to take it. Like, I go out to these countries and there's temptation everywhere. There's bars everywhere. There's temptation everywhere. But I don't take it because, okay, well, sometimes I go to bars, but I don't take the temptation every time, because if you ever watch a professional poker players fold way more often than an amateur or a mid-level poker player. Because just because the opportunity to make money with a poker bet in this example is there, doesn't mean you need to take it. And just because the cost of folding is there doesn't make, like, a cost itself isn't that bad. If the cost amortized out over a long run means that you can make a whole bunch on the bets that you do make. Like, be very selective about the bets you make, be very selective about the choices you make. Your body, your mind, all of that is a vessel, and you need to be very careful about the inputs that you allow in, because once something's in your system, it has an effect. I guess what I'm saying there is it's always easier to prevent something rather than to fall into bad habits, and bad habits can take you to a dark place. The other super important thing is keep your support networks around. When I witnessed this incident, I got on the texts. Like, I texted my family, I let them know what was happening. I texted my friends, I let them know what was happening. We talked it through. I made it very clear to them that, you know, you don't need to worry about, you know, reacting the right way to this piece of news. It'll help me to talk about it just so that it's not in me, but it's external. Like, I got it out, you know? And the same goes even if you don't witness something really bad. Like, if you're traveling long term, it's a really good idea to have people that you keep in touch with. And the onus is on you to keep in touch with people, right? Because you've been with them, you've been in their hometown, you've been around them so long, and now you're just uprooting yourself. It is your responsibility to maintain that relationship. But it's really good. I'm gonna have so much fun editing this down to something coherent. Sorry if this is a bit heavy. It is a heavy incident. It's not the lightest sort of travel vlogging stuff, and if I've portrayed anything in a way that's coming across as flippant, that really is not my intention. But here's the other thing, as much as heavy as that is, and as seriously as I take that, I also need to live my life. I also need to have a bit of fun. I can't just be going around every day. Like, the day after this happened, you know, I've never seen a person jump from a building before. But then the day after that happened, I'm walking around the city, and it's very easy to just look up at a high-rise building and envision a person up there about to jump. And that's not how I want things to be. Even if it has to be gallows humor, even if I have to just laugh it off, I need some way to sort of get back to normalcy. Anyway, I mean, the subject matter being as it is, there's probably no nice way to end this, so please don't let this scare you off of traveling. Traveling is a lot of fun. I've been overseas cumulatively for would be close to a year or more, I don't know. And this is just the one thing that's happened. Anyway, this was my transmission. Bye.